So our second speaker this morning is Sebastian Mellor. He's from Jumping Rivers, and he's going to be talking about lots of shiny things. So,
shiny deployment, yes. I'd like to tell you about some experience I've had with 3 different platforms in particular when it comes to deploying shiny apps for some of our clients. So, I did my maths and stats actually here a little while ago now. And that's when I got to know some R. Following that, I've done some systems infrastructure development for small, medium, quite large companies at times for a little more than the last 10 years or so. So I'd say I learned R as an undergrad, just doing some stats. And then I actually got to use it through my research, throughout the maths, throughout computer science as well. But I'm not sort of a one-language person, as Colin well knows. Similarly, I don't just use one bit of software either. So I've used R when I've been doing some stats, and it's been really good at that. I've already been familiar with some other things, visualization and software development. But I've got to give it to R. The Shiny package and so many other visualization packages around it have made it really easy for people that are just using R for the stats to make some really nice graphics, to make them interactive, and maybe even start making some apps out of it using Shiny. What this means is they can now share their stats with people that they don't need to be data analysts. They don't really need to know the stats. They can just interact with the result of what the experts have done. And my job is to help them do that, help them make that accessible. So this is the example straight from the Shiny homepage, the RStudio Shiny homepage. We've got a plot in the corner. That's Google Trends for some travel-related queries. And hopefully you will, as we heard in the other one, you'll be aware of any issues that you might take when putting that to correlations or other things. But we are trying to share this. And if you can make that plot in R, then you can add some Shiny and put some input boxes above it, or beside it, wherever you want. You can give people immediate access to change the date range, to change the queries when that's set to travel, maybe to overlay some trend lines. And you're the expert that knows how to do that. Drop in a bit of Shiny. The code required is fairly minimal. I know it's just super blurry up here, but it's just a couple of functions. And now we're getting at these data scientists. They are making apps and interactive visualizations here. So you've probably seen Shiny, and maybe you're using it, maybe you're looking into using it. But if you have found it, or if you're learning about it, who can use that? I'll just take you back to that. Who can use this right now? You've made it, it's on your laptop. No one else can actually access it yet. So what do you need? You need to publish it. So that's where we might come along, and you'll say, hey, I've got this great thing. It could even be a product, or it might just be you're going to share it with your colleagues. But other people need to see it. We need to find some hosting. It's got some data behind it. Other people need access to that. Now, the platform you choose doesn't critically affect that. So that one's it's got its own challenges, but not too critical here. And it should just work. So you say, yeah, give it. Everyone should just be able to use it. They should open it on their laptop. Don't need to install anything. Don't need to use R. That also implies sort of a familiarity with the rest of the systems people are using. Maybe the web portal they already have the same branding, the same address. So maybe you haven't thought about access control. Who's actually allowed to access this? And who's managing the access to this? You maybe haven't considered the data security behind the data that's in your app. This just doubles down on being able to control who can access it. And then what about, you've got this app, we're going to publish it. What happens when you want to change it? How are you going to republish it and keep it up to date? maybe add new data, maybe tweak a few things, maybe fix some security issues. And then I'll probably talk to you about a few more things, or at least I'll have them in mind. If I'm going to give you this platform, or if I'm going to work with you making this, I want you to understand what technologies we're using, as far as it's reasonable. You know, you shouldn't have to be able to run it yourself if you don't want to. But if your IT team is going to be looking after this, then it should be based on things that they're familiar with. I shouldn't be introducing loads of complicated bits to it. So who's going to look after it, keep it up to date? Do you have testing procedures? And are you going to actually be tracking the versions of these apps as you update them? So what solutions do we have? And I'm going to take you through a sort of process that someone looking to deploy their Shiny app may go through. Certainly some of the clients have. You might be in our studio using the desktop software. You might have found the publish button. If you click that button, you might see that it's saying, oh, just push it to shinyapps.io. You'd be done. You'd have your app. It's now online. If your visualization is not sensitive, if it's a toy, you are done. That it was as easy as that. But we're talking about something we want to actually be building on here. We want to put branding in it. We want to integrate it with our own system. We need some access control. That takes us straight up to the professional tier of the Shiny Apps IO. If you look at that cost and that works for you, you might be done again. Yeah, this has been quite easy. But maybe you've looked into it and found out that all these servers are based in the US. That might be a problem for you. You might be talking policies and compliance, and you might decide, okay, it's going to be a lot easier. We're just going to run this ourselves. Get some virtual machines on Azure in the UK, maybe, or Amazon, or whatever you want. Maybe you've got some actual hardware you can run it on, but you decided to go self-hosted. So here are the 3 different software products, and there's obviously a couple of versions of Shiny Server. So you're using Shiny. Shiny runs a server, and you go straight to the official Shiny server, open source. It's free. You can just get going, and you look at, is this going to be suitable for us? It's cheap to get started because you don't have to pay for it. It is very flexible. It does have quite a lot of features in it, and this can be a good solution for you. The limitations, they are more on the enterprise side of things. So we're talking about there's no authentication built into it. We're also talking about being directly related one app to one R process that it restricts your scaling ability there. And you do maybe need a little bit more server knowledge to be using Shiny Server. So with some of the setups, you might be connecting into a dedicated machine to upload your Shiny code, playing with some config files. These are okay, and we've got this working, well, we've certainly got some clients that use this sort of pattern. They're already familiar with their Linux home directories, that's where they're keeping their code. So you can set up Shiny Server on that. They've already got a portal, they can nicely integrate into it. And the user authentication, you can put that in your Shiny app, you can put that before you even get to it. So you can work around this. Additionally, there's, if you don't want to be accessing Linux home directories directly, you can just put some secure FTP over the top to allow people to upload their applications. But you're losing some of that integration. So this would be quite a nice solution for those that have a bit of familiarity and they don't need to scale too hard, and they've already got some authentication mechanisms that they can implement. A little bit of knowledge within the users, the app developers. If you went up to Pro, then you'd get your authentication. You could now configure that and use it within your Shiny app. From your Shiny app, you can just set you can see what username they've logged in as. You can take control of it. And you can also scale up much better. But it's a similar sort of design, similar platform for publishing your application. And you're now not looking at free stuff. But that's okay. Except that on your search around the internet, you may have come across Shiny Proxy. And you may have seen, hey, this is doing a lot of the stuff that the Shiny Server Pro would be doing. But this is still free. And it does all of these platforms, all of these choices. Shiny Apps.io may get more servers across the world. Shiny Server Pro, Shiny Proxy, and RStudio Connect, they're adding more features really quickly. I keep having to check in to see what they're supporting. So once you try out Shiny Proxy, you find that you can build into it almost any authentication platform that you want. And it's immediately scalable because it's built straight onto a Docker backend. And those same benefits are the sort of limitations with this option. We've now got more configuration files, and we need to be managing a Docker. It doesn't have to be a big cluster, it could be a cluster of one, but we're now introducing a few more technologies. So I want to certainly be aware of the sort of experience and knowledge when people are going down this sort of route. And again, we work with people who are using this. They've dedicated time up front to learn the extra technologies, to learn how to maintain these systems. All of your applications are in Docker images, so they've got a build chain. Who's using Docker in any of their work? Good, nice few of you. So I certainly would not say that Docker is a bad thing, and I probably use it around a lot of these infrastructures to make them reproducible and easily deployable and scalable, whatever we're doing. But now we require this process. We update the app, we build new images, we deploy them to our Docker container registries, we're pulling them into Shiny Proxy. I think the greatest limitation is having the applications all defined within a text config file though. That is the main server config file, and now any publisher, if they want to change their app, add a new one, they need access to the server, the main file that runs sets up the entire server. And that can be quite a big issue. So that brings us back around to RStudio Connect. I have skipped RStudio, Shiny Server Pro in terms of actual use cases here, because Connect somewhat supersedes that. So I've been introduced to Connect. I've done the training program to certify that. I know how to set it up and use it. And as I say, I don't just want to use one bit of software. If I can make a great system that can do everything and have all the features, given the time, I'd love to do that. But using Connect, it does everything for me. I'm not trying to sell Connect as a single solution. As I say, we have people on all of these platforms. But I have found this one saves me a lot of time when we don't have that in-house expertise, when we don't want to be rebuilding a lot of things that are already out there, if we're happy to just go and get some software that we can pay for and have some support alongside it. Other than Shiny Apps.io, it's the only other one where I can go and teach people, how do you deploy your app? You click this button that is in your IDE. You're not having to deal with tool chains and remote Git repositories, although I would recommend keeping your code backed up and versioned. When it comes to configuring the URLs that people are going to go to access your application, deciding who can access, That's all got a web interface that can be used. It's more than just the application platform, publishing platform, because you can now publish your Markdown reports, you can schedule them, send emails to yourself when data updates, or to other people that register. And with it being a single bit of software, it's really easy to just get started with. And that hasn't come at a loss of features. It still gives you quite a few authentication methods. If you put Proxy in front, you can still have almost anything to authenticate with it. And so this is actually quite a popular recommendation for a lot of clients who just want something easy that works, has official support behind it. So I'd be very happy with any of these choices. And I think the simplest way to consider them is you don't need too much out of it. Shiny Server open source. You can get started. If you know Docker, you can use the Rocker Shiny version of the image and you can spin that up. It's already got everything set up for you. You attach your application files into it and you can get running. You have to do something else if you want authentication or scaling. Shiny Proxy, if you really want to get to know a lot of things going on, you can customize that a lot, but you have to customize that quite a lot. And as I said, I think the greatest downfall is the deployment. It's probably the trickiest, given that one person needs access to that config file to modify how the applications are deployed. And then RStudio Connect, for anyone that can, it's quite a straightforward choice, really. This one works, and it has pretty much all the features of the others. And if it doesn't, I'd love to explore that challenge with anyone that finds a limitation of Connect. And of course, Jumping Rivers as a choice. If you don't care which one is going to be used, we'll make you one. We'll find one that fits. We'll teach you how to use it, provide the support that goes alongside that. And I think I've been quite prompt there.
Great. Any questions? Oh, I've got a couple.